I'll kick things off. Big news from the foundation, of course. We announced dates for CF Summit. So that's going to be July 21st and 22nd. It'll be in North America time zones. And the call for proposals is now open. So I believe that ends May 21st. So you should check it out. It's on the website. You can register for the event. There is a sponsorship prospectus, but most importantly, the call for proposals is open. So for Cloud Foundry committers and everyone else in the community, now is a great time to put in proposals for the Cloud Foundry Summit. Should be fun. Another virtual event. I am very much cautiously hoping there'll be in-person events in 2022, but it is what it is still. So, but it should be fun to get together again. And yeah, just one event this year, so hopefully it'll be a bit bigger turnout. But yeah, looking forward to that. But call for proposals is open. Please spread the word on that to all of the project teams and folks in your respective companies. Other than that, I just wanted to say, keep us informed of interesting project updates. We're always looking for blog posts for the Cloud Foundry blog, ideas for live streams or tutorials. Ram and Shedrack have been doing a lot of cool work there. So if there's a project that you feel like could use a little bit more visibility, or you'd like a tutorial written for, we can probably help with that. So just reach out to the CFF if you have any ideas for live streams, tutorials. If you'd like to write a blog post, or you'd like us to write a blog post, let us know. So with that, I guess, does anyone have any, I'll get to PMC updates in just a second, but does anyone have any things they want to bring up, talk about today? Okay, with that, Eric, do you want to give us some updates on the application runtime, PMC?
Yeah, happy to. So I made some notes in the doc, but I'll run over those real quick. Across the integration projects, we've had kind of regular releases for both CF deployment and CF from release integration. I think that latest CF minor version has a nice improvement to CF apps. So if you have some missing apps, or some apps even with 0 instances, those will actually return in a reasonable amount of time when you run that command. And then folks in release integration have also been working with some other folks from SAP and IBM outside the team to be testing CF deployment against the bionic stem cells, and getting some mileage on those and driving out a few bugs. And then kubectf is continuing to release some patch versions on the 2.7 line with some CF operator fixes and some other dependency updates. I think there's a pretty big CF operator update that resolves some outstanding bugs there. And then on some of the component teams, I'm pretty sure that CAPI is done with all the v3 endpoints at this point, but I'm still waiting on independent confirmation of that. So pretty sure that's done. So they've been focusing on a few other things as well. I know there's been a few edge cases that they have realized around some of the state transitions for apps and how they affect rolling app deployments, where you could end up with an unexpected app restart if you change one of the parameters on an app. So they've been fixing up some of those cases so that they're all much more consistent and predictable. And I think they're restarting some work on app manifest diffs with the server-side manifest apply pretty soon. And then Irene has also been working with the CAPI team to transition over to a CRD interface for their LRP abstraction inside of Cloud Controller. So they've been working on that for a while, but they're getting more serious about the transition to that as the main API into the Irene component to align more with some of the Kubernetes native practices around managing those resources. On the networking side, I know they've started to look at what it would take to support HTTP2 as a protocol in the Go router and some of the other changes around that. And so I think they're working on an initial problem statement and proposal for that that they'd like to get feedback on. So keep an eye out for that soon. And then a couple other improvements. A while back, Diego had taken in some work that was contributed to allow some refinements to some of the bin packing that it does in order to favor the lower indexed cells to try to get some more efficient packing on those. And so they're working on some additional indexing refinements to support that in a few edge cases. And then the logging and metrics team also had some releases, again, to address some of the bionic stem cell compatibility issues that had come up in earlier testing. And they've also had some component logging improvements trying to get everyone aligned on those human readable timestamps for component logs. So those are just some of the highlights across those PMC teams for the past month or so.
Great, thank you, Eric. And I believe we've got Maya here from the Bosch PMC. Maya, do you have some updates for us on that?
Yeah, I maybe don't have anything as polished as Eric, but we'll just run through my points, I guess. So we have some tweaks to memory task cleanup right now. When you run the scheduled task cleanup, it loads all those tasks into memory. So we're getting some reports that customers are having to inflate their director size. So hopefully that fix will come out soon. Right now, the Postgres director ships with Postgres 9 and Postgres 10, sorry, the Bosch director. And I think Postgres 10 has another year or two of support, but we've introduced Postgres 13 so customers can move over. We also shipped Bosch DNS last month because we bumped to Go 115. Go 115 now enforces SANs on certs. So people that bump to Bosch DNS 128 might run into deployment failures if they don't have SANs on their certs. So I think we've documented that in Bosch deployment, but that's something to keep your eye out for. And then Bionic is still moving along. I think we're still hoping to get a GA soon. SAP and IBM have both been really involved in driving this forward. And I think the plan is to move this to the foundation at some point with like a real open source model of contribution for this going forward. But I think there should be communication about this coming out soon.
Great. Yeah, awesome. Any questions for Eric or Maya about those updates? Okay. The extensions PMC, as Troy left, I've been just doing some housekeeping and whatnot for the extensions PMC. We didn't think it necessarily made sense to find a new extension PMC lead given the technical governance changes coming up, presumably in a couple of months. So I've just been sort of placeholding for that. I did formally retire a few projects, a couple that had been long dormant, SQL Server and Brooklyn Broker, probably could have been retired a couple of years ago. And then also CF Swagger, which is also long dormant, but thought perhaps there might be some community interest there because it's kind of a worthwhile thing. And then CF Dev, which is more current, but that's also no longer being maintained. So we moved that to the, or I haven't moved it to the attic yet, but I will this week. So those 4 projects formally retired, a few more coming, probably CFCR in the next couple months, and CF Local once a few other things have happened to replace that. And yeah, lots of other projects are still, chugging along. I know Service Fabrique had a major release, or not a major release, but it's a 0.13, but still like lots of new bug fixes and features and whatnot. And we will get some significant updates from the build packs crew at the next cap call meeting. So current state of cloud native build packs, Paketo build packs, last generation CF build packs, all of that stuff. How cloud native build packs are playing with CF Arcades, things like that. So that should be a nice deep dive into build packs at the next cab call. But we do not have a presentation for this cab call. So unless there are any other orders of business, I think that's probably a wrap. Anyone have anything they want to talk about? Or okay, well, thank you all very much for joining. Maya, thanks for coming from the Bosch PMC. Eric, thanks for the updates. Thank you all for coming.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, Steve.
Sorry, can I try to put people on the spot a little bit?
Sure.
Probably
Yeah.
Maya and Eric, I apologize. But with the bionic stem cells, given the April kind of deadline, we have to make a decision on cloud.gov whether or not we open security related things if we can't get patches. And so do we have any idea of how hard that timeline actually is for Bionic and if that's going to work? Because we have to unfortunately start a compliance process and a whole slew of paperwork. and figure out a remediation plan. And we don't want to do that if you're all really confident that we're going to hit April 30th or whatever.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. So you're going to take the existing stem cell and then audit it for some compliance
No,
reasons?
I mean, so part of our SSP says, our system security plan says that we get regular updates and patches to the operating systems. And if that can't happen because the existing stem cells are no longer going to be patched and Bionic's not ready and proven with CF deployment, then that puts us in a position where we have to address that with the compliance folks and have a remediation plan. And that's actually a lot of work. And from the communications we've seen, you know, they all say, hey, we might hit this, we might not hit this deadline of April 30th. And I'm just trying to get an understanding of, you know, how close we think that would be because of the amount of work we'd have to do. Like, let's say it's not ready, not proven, not tested for CF deployment by April 30th. Is it May 5th? Is it July? Like, those are very different targets, if that makes sense. I know that's a hard question to answer. I apologize.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Steve. I think there's still some risk that there are operational unknowns with how some of the deeper components of CF deployment, things like Garden especially, are going to work. So I know there's been a couple of fixes that have gone into Garden already for some issues that were discovered on previous rounds. But I couldn't say, you know, for 100% certain that like there will be a lot of mileage with CF deployment in particular on bionic stem cells by the end of April. And so I do see some risk of running past that. I don't think it would be much, like I doubt it'd be into July to take us to resolve any of those issues. You know, certainly a lot of the other big vendors, you know, especially SAP and IBM, if they've really been stepping up to drive this effort, they have some of those same security concerns and want to make that transition for their large CF environments over to Bionic very quickly. So if it does go past April, I would hope that there'd be kind of increased urgency to getting that resolved, say sometime in May. But you know, I wouldn't say April 30th is a lock at all.
Okay, thanks. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Steve, and everybody else. Unless there's any last minute agenda items, we'll call it a wrap for this month. And David, coming in at the buzzer.
Last call.
Just about to
Let's
say
go.
goodbye. We're just wrapping up the meeting.
Okay.
But welcome. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to bring up, you have made it at the buzzer. But if you're just popping in, the recording for this will be up in a couple of hours. So I believe that's a wrap for today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you all for joining. And we'll talk to you all soon. Be on Slack.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Thanks all.